The Absolute Podcast.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Absolute Podcast. I'm your host, Jasmine, Templin. I'm an Enquiries, personal trainer, bikini competitor pro, anything to do with fitness I love and am involved in some way. In today's podcast episode, we are going to be talking about how to deal with bad body image days, which is something I think pretty much almost everyone will experience to some degree, some worse than others, and something that I work on a lot with my clients is how do we deal with those bad body image days? Because the thing is, when it comes to your fitness goals, is when you get to the physique that you originally wanted, you kind of get there and it's like, oh, is this it? You think on your journey to fitness, like something magical is going to change and you're going to start loving yourself. But reality is, you get there and you're even more body dysmorphic in the first place. Like it is scientifically proven that the leaner you get, the more body dysmorphic that you become. And I can absolutely see the correlation between even my clients who are naturally heavier, they have more confidence than my girls who are 50 kilos. So body image has nothing to do with what you look like and everything to do with your mindset, which is why I'm so big on doing the mindset work now with where you're currently at, then you're just waiting and hoping for your bad body image struggles to be fixed when you get to, your desired physique goal, for example. So honestly, I cannot stress the importance of doing the work now with the physique that you're at. Otherwise, you're going to get to your physique goal and be so unhappy and probably even more depressed in terms of where you're currently at. So I know it's a little bit of a catch-22 and it's kind of hard to believe, but it is so important that you do the work mentally, physically when it comes to what you look like and how you speak to yourself. Because, like I said, at the end of the day, it's nothing to do with what you look like and everything to do with your mindset towards yourself. So when you have those bad body image days, what are some things that we can do? So let's have a little bit of a chat about that. And let's also chat about things that I recommend to my clients to do consistently when it comes to just making sure that they're developing a really good and healthy relationship with themselves. So first and foremost, there's one thing that I really recommend to every single client is just positive affirmations. And this stuff, when I say this on a podcast, it sounds such simple stuff to me because I deal with it on a daily basis in terms of, teaching my clients it and been saying it for years. Like this stuff is not new stuff to me, but sometimes I really need to bring it back down to the basics as much as this because a lot of people will forget the basics and it's still new stuff to a lot of people. So I think it's really important to touch on. So affirmations, so simple, so effective. You are what you subconsciously tell yourself over time. So if you've gone your entire life telling yourself that you're ugly, you're fat, you're all these negative things, you're not good enough, you're not worthy of the job you want, you are naturally going to think that about yourself subconsciously, right? Whether it's true or not. So if you change your narrative, and it's not going to happen overnight. So you need to train your brain to think more positively, to tell yourself all these nice things about yourself, even if you don't believe them, because chances are you're probably not going to believe them. And that is where it comes in. It's doing the work consistently. When it comes to having and dealing with bad body image days and increasing your confidence, it's not just you do the work one day and it's done. It's something that you have to consistently work on over time. Okay, so, you know, it requires work constantly, but at the end of the day, hating yourself is way harder. So you may as well do the work, love yourself. And I think as well, one of the most motivating things for me when it comes to making sure that I do the work on my mental health to make sure that I'm in a good spot is just knowing the fact that how much easier life is when you are a confident person. I think we all know what it's like to be a person who isn't confident, who isn't sure of themselves, who doesn't think they're good enough. And then if you actually experience the opposite, where you actually are in a really healthy relationship with yourself, you feel worthy of all the things that you want, you actually start getting them. Like life is way easier. So for me, if I ever feel like I don't want to do like journaling or speak nicely to myself or whatever, because it can be really easy to fall in that hole and that negative cycle of just negative self-talk and get yourself down that spiral. So my motivation is just knowing how much better life is when I'm actually a good person to myself. It's all about energy at the end of the day. So that's my motivation. Have a why, because if you don't have a why and you haven't really experienced like how good life can be and all the opportunities that you will get when you are a confident person, you just have no idea what's waiting for you on the inside. So do the positive affirmations. There is an app called I Am Affirmations. I think it's written about on the podcast once before. I recommend it to all my clients. You can set it to go off all throughout the day in terms of notifications. And is an awesome app. It will just say, I am worthy of my dream job. It will go over all these different affirmations, but it goes off throughout the day on your phone. And you also consciously read that over time. It's just like that little, like extra little programming that you can constantly breathe throughout the day. Because, like I said, if you come through your entire life with negative self talk, it's not going to be an overnight process to actually start liking who you are as a person. So, affirmations are a massive one, and literally just like gaslight yourself to the point of positive self talk. So, even if I'm having a bad body image day and I'm having a quote unquote fat day and I'm just feeling crap about myself, I will literally look in the mirror and tell myself how hot I am, how I have the best body, even if I'm not, if even if I don't feel like I do, and I have having the worst body image day ever. I will literally just tell myself all of these nice things about myself, even though it feels so hard and uncomfortable and I genuinely don't believe it. I'll just tell myself that. And another thing I also remind myself is even if I'm having a bad body image day, is that tomorrow I'll be probably feeling $1,000,000. Because it's always like that. It comes in waves at the end of the day. And at the end of the day as well, like our body can't fluctuate that much from a day-to-day basis. Like, yeah, we're going to be holding some extra full tension and, whatnot, and maybe a little bit more fluffier depending where we're at in our cycle. But overall, like, our body actually can't change that much. So chances are you're probably going to be feeling $1,000,000 tomorrow when you actually haven't consumed heaps of social media and in this comparison trap. Us women in particular, our hormones fluctuate up to 120% from a week to week basis. That's a lot. So, you know, and we base a lot of our leanness based off our midsection. So if our midsection is a little bit bloated, then we're going to be feeling softer overall. So, it's think like next day, probably not going to be as bloated. You feel probably way better about yourself. So those are things that I remind myself is that like I'm just going to be feeling better tomorrow. And then I just try and absolute lie to myself and tell myself all these positive things, even though it feels so hard and uncomfortable. But you know what? Feeling shit about yourself is true. So pick your on. So that's that. And I think as well, when we are in like these negative body image spirals, and I know a lot of my clients experience this because I would say I talk to them on a day-to-day basis, is we get into like this headspace where we almost feel like we're the only people who are struggling with this and like the only person alive who just can't be happy in like their body, if that makes sense. And I'm sure every single woman in particular who's listening to this can relate. And I know a lot of guys experience it as well, to different degrees, of course, no matter who the person is. But, we can look at social media and think, oh my God, like how are people just like existing in our bodies? It can be like almost like quite hard. But once again, I think positive affirmations, I journal every single night. I cannot not journal. And journaling is something I recommend to all of my clients, and I think if you go to any counselor as well, they will also tell you the same thing. Because what it does is it helps you get your thoughts to paper. And think of it like a messy room. It just feels super cluttered and uncomfortable. And then when you clean it or, take it somewhere else, obviously it's far clearer. So that's an analogy I kind of like to think of journaling for me is my I haven't journaled, my head's like a messy room. It's just not good. But then when I journal, it's all out. It's done. My mind is clear. So journal. Like, it doesn't have to be anything deep. You don't even have to write your feelings. I don't even necessarily write about how I'm feeling per se or anything. It's more so just like writing about my day, and then it's done. Then I feel like I can like move on to like the next day, if that makes sense, because I've like put it out there, and like I can move on. Journaling is super powerful, but it's one of those things that just doesn't feel comfortable when you're used to doing it. But when you make it a habit, it's one of the best things. And meditation is great. I don't personally meditate a lot. I will only ever do it if I'm feeling particularly anxious. Not that I have anxiety or depression or anything like that, thankfully. But if I am feeling days of heightened anxiety, then I definitely will meditate or do some kind of like self-guided meditation, which I definitely recommend meditation like pretty much daily if you can. I just don't personally do it because I don't feel like I necessarily need to. My form of meditation is like going for a walk. So, you know, self care will look different on everyone. Like, just because I recommend journaling doesn't mean you need to journal. Like, maybe your thing is like drawing, or even I know like the adult coloring books are really good as well. I really like them. Nothing better than like listening to a podcast. Maybe I listen to this one now and then coloring in. But I think better than like listening to a podcast or listening to some music or some meditation, and then you just like doing your out coloring a book, super therapeutic and a good way to kind of switch your mind off things. So, that's the thing, is like self care will look different on everyone. So find something that you really enjoy doing, and that sometimes you need it as well. Just play around with different things. And I think that's always fun as well. So back to what I was saying is that we can almost feel like we are the only person going through these bad body image days, but the reality is most people will face them as well. When you're on social media, take everything with a grain of salt. Social media is a highlight reel. It is not real. People are only posting their highlights. Of course they are. Why would anyone post like their lows or a bad angle of themselves or a photo where they just don't look flattering? Of course, we're all going to post our highlights and photos of ourselves that look the best. That's, literally why would we post anything else? So take social media with a grain of salt. And for me, my rule when it comes to social media is be a user, not a consumer. So I try and not to consume any content as much as I can. It allows my brain to be super creative as much as I can, especially when it comes to content. And I honestly just feel like it kills your brain cells, to be honest. Like, we do not want a quote unquote TikTok brain. A TikTok brain, you have a short attention span. Most people can't even watch movies nowadays because they don't have the attention span. Like, everyone's attention span is of a goldfish. It is absolutely awful. So I just think the less dopamine that you can consume from all these artificial platforms, the better. And when you are consuming content, just try and make sure it's more educational and things that actually make you feel good. And even if you are consuming something that isn't necessarily educational but also entertainment, take it with a grain of salt. Try not to compare yourself. And one of my good friends actually, he describes this analogy, and I actually really like the way that he worded it. And basically, it was on the topic of like finding your soulmate, having kids, settling down, like your life goals, right? And basically what he said is like we all have a timeline as to how it's going to happen, and everyone does different things at different rates. So some people might have their party phase super young, then they find a partner and they settle down super young, and then they go do their career stuff later. Some people might not have a party phase, they might go do their career stuff, and then they will find a partner way later on in life and maybe have kids later. Like, everyone has a different timeline for things. So you can't compare where you are at now in comparison to anyone else, because like you'll get there too, and just like they'll do their things that you have on a different timeline as well. So, you can't compare, and you have to just once again try not to let that like social media side eat your apart, because it definitely will without you even realizing. Social media is honestly one of the biggest killers when it comes to mental health and how we feel about ourselves. And it's like that whole thing of like, if you ever want a bit of a reality check, go to a beach or like a water park where everyone else is in bikinis. It's like you realize that no one is walking around with BBLs or juiced up, like everyone has pretty damn average bodies and like normal bodies, and everyone does. Like the people who on social media don't even look like what they do on social media, of course they don't. So I just think, yeah, don't try not to get in the comparison trap and just realize what you're seeing is so artificial. And when you're kind of like, you get in the social media trap, you can kind of get a little bit of like out of touch with what reality is and what the normal kind of person looks like, right? So, yeah, I guess another tip for bad body image days is try and almost just like get out of your normal routine, talk to friends, and just like do normal human activities as well. I feel because I think as well, if you're spending a lot of time at home and just in your normal routine and you get in like this little bubble, it's you forget that there's a whole life outside of your little bubble. So get out of your routine, like go out with your friends, catch up with family. You will realize there is so much more to life than just like this little bubble you've been putting yourself into. And I feel like this it's kind of a weird thing to say, but if you've been in the bubble, you know what it's like. So get aside, like there's literally so much alive, and that the body of struggles that you're dealing with is can be so insignificant, and things that you pick out with yourself, people would never even think in a million years. It is absolutely insane the amount of absolutely beautiful people that I know who have these insecurities, and they'll tell me, and it's like, wow, like here I am thinking, you are like the most drop dead gorgeous person on this world. How could you possibly, like, why do you even point out this insecurity? Like, you wouldn't even think it. And that's how people think about it to you. And we can think all these things. And by the way, I'm such an advocate for doing anything that makes you feel good, plastic surgery, whatever. You know, I'm all about that, or could have said, obviously. But yeah, I just think as well, you also have to have a sense of like bit of a reality check with yourself. If you are ever having any kind of like insecurity, just know that like anyone else looking at you is like probably not even they haven't even noticed. You're the only person who can notice that on yourself. So another thing as well when you're having a bad body image day is to wear things that make you feel good. I'm such a big advocate of wear clothes that fit your body. Try not to get your body to fit your clothes. And as a fitness coach, obviously I'm all about changing your physique and doing it in the healthiest way possible and looking good, feeling good, all these kinds of things. But you don't want to try and put this unrealistic expectation to try and fit in these size 6 shorts, jean shorts that aren't stretchy that you fit when you were 20 and, you're 30 now. Okay, so, don't put so much pressure in terms of like the clothes. Find clothes that actually fit your body nicely. And if that's an excuse to go shopping, then please go shopping. There are so many amazing outfits out there that are really nice, that will fit you nicely, that can be classy, that can cover you up, but also show off your shape. So find what works for you, find a new style. And your style of clothes will change over the years, and so will your body for better, or if it's changed for what like worse, not that that's a bad thing. But just find clothes that fit your body, especially, you and if that means you need to change wardrobes a few times, especially if you are in a fitness journey and your body is changing, whether you're losing weight, going through a build phase, whatever, then so be it. Have a few different wardrobes. Like don't try and just fit into this one wardrobe because our life will fluctuate, the events that we have will fluctuate in seasons of our life. So, you can expect your body to as well. And if you're taking good care of yourself and you're eating good foods, you're eating healthy and you're exercising, speaking to yourself nicely, it's pretty damn hard to feel bad about a body that you're taking great care of. So look after yourself, say nice things to yourself, show up for yourself in nice ways, Speak to yourself as if you would with your best friend or your daughter or your sister. And I just think stop putting these unrealistic, unnecessary expectations on yourself to try to fit this beauty standard that isn't even real in the first place. So it's normal to have these days. It's normal to get in like this kind of spiral. But I think if you can make sure that you're constantly doing the work, do your affirmations, do the journaling, have those like out of bubble experiences and get yourself out of your normal like comfort zone and your normal routine, you'll realize there's so much more to life. They're just like this little bubble that you're putting yourself into. And I think if you're doing these things, even when those days do come up, they're not going to be as harsh, and you're still going to know that tomorrow you're probably going to be feeling good about yourself. So that's my little 2 cents on how to deal with those bad body image days. At the end of the day, we all have them, but if you're doing these things, you're not going to be down like this awful spiral that's going to last weeks and weeks on end. It's just going to be a couple hours, and then tomorrow you'll be feeling way better. But that is all for today's episode. Thank you guys all so much for listening, and I'll see you guys in the next episode.
The Absolute Podcast.